What up, YouTube? It has been way too long since we've been downtown in the city of Boston. I don't know if you remember or if you've even seen it, but the very first video that I ever made on this YouTube channel was actually here in the city of Boston. And honestly, ever since then, I think that was 3 or 4 months ago, I have not been back to the city at all. So I'm super pumped for today. Last time I was here, we hung out down by the old State House, which is more in like the financial district area of the city of Boston. But today what I want to do is go up more towards the Cambridge area and see if we can get a little bit of street photography in around there. Last week I released a video all about the gear that I use for my photography. And I said in that video that I was pretty content with the gear that I had and wasn't really planning on buying anything additional. But I think I'm already going to go back on my word today, and I'm going to pick something up at the camera store right down the street here right now. Alright, I can explain. Every once in a while, I want to be able to go out without having to take 2 cameras. I really prefer my Fujifilm for stills, and I really like the Panasonic a lot more for video, just like I said in my last video about gear. But every once in a while, I don't want to have to be bogged down by 2 separate cameras. So what I did was I bought essentially the equivalent of my most used lens on the Fujifilm system, but for the Lumix system, so I won't have to carry around 2 cameras all the time. The lens that I bought is the Panasonic 25mm f1.7 lens. So it's essentially a 50mm equivalent lens on a full frame camera. It's the same lens that I use on my Fuji for the most part, and also the same lens that I use on my film camera for the most part. I didn't just come down here to buy that lens though. I really want to get some photography in, so what I'm going to do is strap my GoPro to my head and give you a little bit of a behind the scenes of my photography today. Let's go. What up, YouTube? I'm coming at you right now with my very first ever voiceover. I figured this would be a better way of giving you a behind the scenes of my photography, and it also makes it a bit easier for me when I'm out shooting to just focus on getting good photos rather than worrying about talking to the camera all the time. Right here, I'm just snagging a few warm-up shots. I really like this scene with the cool bus stop, but the light wasn't really ideal at this time. Right now in the video, I have my GoPro strapped to the top of my camera, but I switch it over to my head in just a minute. Also, right now, I'm still using my wide-angle Leica lens, but I move over to my 25mm that I just bought in just a minute. Here, I just crossed over the street to head over to this cool archway. I thought it might be cool to have someone walk through the scene and snag a shot of them below the arch. I was lucky enough to have this guy right here walk through the scene, and I snagged this shot right here. Next step was to move a bit closer to the highway where we have this cool view of the Prudential Center. I snagged a few shots here, nothing that was too impressive. I moved over to the other side of the road where I noticed this older car that looks pretty cool down low in front of the Prudential Center. I crouched down real low, snagged a few shots in portrait orientation first, but then I flipped the camera over into landscape orientation and snagged this photo right here. This was one of the first shots I got with that new 25mm f1.7. After that, I wanted to head a bit further down the road because I thought that there was a cool bridge down here overlooking the highway. Once I got onto the bridge, I kind of realized that I was on the wrong side. I still tried taking a few shots overlooking the highway, but nothing really great came out of it. I thought it would be a much better point of view to get myself onto the other side of the bridge. So I've driven under this bridge probably 100 times at this point on my way into the city, and I've always thought that it would be a great view of the Prudential Center with the highway acting as a solid leading line if I could just get up on top of this bridge. Once I got over onto the bridge, I walked about halfway down it and started snagging photos. Once I crouched down, I kind of realized I didn't really like the angle I was at, so I got up and moved further down the bridge to get a better angle with a bit more of the highway in my foreground. With this type of photo, where there's a road in the image, I always take like 15 or 20 different shots because the type of car in the photo or the way the cars line up can make a huge difference. I always try to get a photo with like a cool Mercedes in the foreground, or maybe with just a bunch of cars lined up in a really cool formation. It makes the photo a heck of a lot cooler when you have interesting cars on the road. As you can see in this image, I got myself a BMW and a Tesla in there. Nothing too special, but it spices it up a little bit. After that shot, had to run back to the car real quick to renew my parking meter. Luckily, I was only like 5 or 10 minutes away. Definitely don't want to have to deal with a parking ticket. Next, I wanted to walk across the Harvard Bridge and head over towards the MIT campus to see if anything cool was going on there. I've never been over to that part of the city at all, so I figured it would be cool to explore. While I was on my way over there, I snagged this shot of people biking up the footbridge. And I also snagged this skyline shot of the city. Now I'm finally over on the MIT campus. I've never been over here at all, and I didn't do any research, so I was literally just walking blindly around the campus. As I was walking, I randomly came up on this insane building that was part of the campus. I quickly threw on my wide-angle lens, and I posted up here for a while. I started taking photos anytime anything interesting happened in the scene. At first, I saw this silhouette underneath the building, so I zoomed in real quick and snagged this shot. I really like how this one came out, and I did my best in post-processing to make the silhouette stand out the most in the photo. Shortly thereafter, this guy on a bike came cruising through the scene, and I snagged this photo of him right here. I kind of wish my shutter speed was a little bit faster to freeze his motion better, but it is what it is. Then finally, I stepped a bit to the side to capture this couple walking through the scene. I also really like this photo. It does a good job of displaying the architecture of the building. I don't think any of these photos by themselves really stand out that much, but as a photo set, I think they came out pretty solid. Let me know what you think about these in the comments below. That was a solid day of shooting. I've been out here for like 2 or 3 hours at this point. I'm gonna wrap it up, head back to my car because it is getting really cold outside and the sun is setting, so I'm gonna get out of here and edit those photos together. What up, YouTube? Now that was a solid day of photography. Over the past month or two, I felt like I've just been in this like creative slump, so to speak. For example, I was in Ireland for a full 2 weeks for work, and I wasn't able to come up with anything really that I thought was super unique and a solid photo. And besides that, over the past month, I haven't really even had the opportunity to get out. Yesterday, however, was an awesome day, and I have a bunch of photos that I'm actually really happy with. First things first though, before I show you a couple more photos, we gotta talk about this lens. I was pleasantly surprised with this lens actually. For 150 bucks, it really gets the job done. It's plenty sharp for the photos that I take, and it's gonna be really nice for when I decide to leave my Fuji at home and just take my Panasonic camera with me. I still prefer the Fuji for stills, the Fuji with the 35mm f2 to be more specific, but for when I don't want to carry around 2 cameras, this lens is going to be absolutely perfect for me, and for 150 bucks, it's an absolute bargain. There's been way too much gear talk lately, so let's get back to the photos. After I signed off yesterday and pretty much said that I was heading back to my car, the sunset started to really light up the sky, so I pretty much started sprinting to get where I needed to be. I headed back up onto that bridge that has that cool overlook over the Prudential Center with the highway in the foreground. And because the sun was going down and the light was getting much better, I was able to get this shot right here. I like this shot a heck of a lot better than the one I took earlier, just because as the sun goes down, you can really see the headlights reflecting off of the pavement, and it just looks 100 times better when you have that kind of aesthetic in your photo rather than just a midday photo. I also headed back to that bus stop that you probably saw in the beginning of the video, and I started trying to get a picture with that big light up Citgo sign in the background. I managed to see this Mercedes-Benz pull right up to the red light, and I got down really low with my 25mm lens and got this cool close-up shot with the Citgo sign in the background. It looks pretty dope, and I think that this is actually my favorite photo of the day. All in all, I'd say that it was an extremely successful day. The 3 photos or photo sets that I'd say were keepers were number 1, that photo set I made at MIT, number 2, that photo overlooking the Prudential Center during Blue Hour, and then number 3, that picture of the Mercedes with the Citgo sign in the background. Let me know in the comment section below which of those photos is your favorite. I'm gonna wrap up the video here. Please hit that thumbs up button below if you liked the video, and also if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out a ton. One last thing, if you know anybody that you would think would be interested in these videos, please share it with them. I've been putting in a ton of work filming these videos, doing voiceovers, and actually making photos that would be interesting for you guys to look at. So if you have anybody in your friends or your family that you think would be interested in this, please share it with them. It will be greatly appreciated. Thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it big time, and I'll see you in my video next week. Thanks. Peace.